Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/PettyRevenge, where people get little wins on others that wrong them. And in this episode, guys, cheating spouses are getting destroyed, Karens are starting wars that they regret, people are learning not to steal from others. It's wild. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. Hit subscribe if you haven't, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. So this took place about 7 years ago, so the conversations are summarized and not 100% word for word. So I used to work in a call center where everyone had little cubicles. You could chat with people on either side or behind if things got slow, but anyone on the other side of the divider was sort of hard to see or chat with. Now that was only important because Karen was in this hard to see location from me. I have issues with overheating, medical stuff, so I like to sit right under the AC vent. Nobody fought me for this because it was way too cold for most people. Well, being a woman, this meant that sometimes I had some nipple pokey issues on some days. It's perfectly natural, and to most people, it's not noticeable because it's under my shirts and my bra. But of course, Karen notices this, and she makes a report to the HR. The HR woman and my direct supervisor parade me through the cubicles and into their office to question me about my nipples. Now, I could have thrown a fit about this to begin with, since we actually didn't have a dress code and it's none of their damn business. They asked me to prove that I was wearing a bra, so I showed them the straps and they told me good enough, and to go back to my desk. I refused to go back. I said that I needed to place a complaint about someone, and they asked me who I was reporting. I then said, I don't know, but you do. I want to report whoever it is that's been staring at my chest all day. Now that I know someone's staring, I feel that this is a hostile work environment. They acted like I was joking at first, until I said, if you don't have a talk with them, I will go over your heads and report you for forcing me to reveal my bra to you. I then got escorted back to my desk, and Karen was sitting there looking all smug, until they escort her to the HR office. Now I don't know what happened to her in the office, and really, I didn't care. They did their part by having their talk with her. All I really wanted to know was who did it. Since it was a very slow day, all my coworkers start asking me what that was all about. Office gossip, you know? I told everyone exactly what happened and added that Karen must be fascinated with my chest since she noticed, and everybody else confirmed that they didn't notice. When she came back from HR, every person in the room knew what she had done, and they were glaring at her. Snitches didn't get stitches though, and didn't get fired either, but they got treated like the Karen they were. Nobody would talk to her. People would be chatting, see her come try to join the conversation, and they would just go silent and turn away from her. Some people did loud whispers and made comments like, shh, don't say anything, she'll report you. And Karen quit about 2 weeks later. Yeah, so leave it up to a Karen to take something like this to HR to try to get OP in trouble for it, right? And this is exactly what she gets for trying to stir up crap in the office. And guys, I have never worked in a professional office setting, so I've never had to deal with any nipple action. Like, is this something to even care about? Like, do you just look away and pretend you don't see it? Do you tell them? Do you do what Karen did and just HR it? I really would like to know. Also, I'm pretty sure that HR isn't allowed to ask OP to show them her bra, like, at all. Okay, so today I get a call from the school that my 9-year-old attends, asking me to please come to the school because my daughter was in trouble for vandalizing another child's property. Now this really surprised me because my daughter is a bit of a goody two-shoes and she never gets in trouble. So I dropped what I was doing and swung by the school to find my daughter sitting in the principal's office grinning from ear to ear. I was ushered in to take a seat. It was at that point the principal immediately launches into a tirade about how my daughter had broken another girl's necklace on purpose and how unacceptable it was. Once he was finished, I turned to my daughter to hear her side of the story. The story is this. So last year, my daughter saves up her pocket money to buy best friend necklaces for her and this other girl. I ordered them from wish.com for her. This year, the friendship went belly up when I discovered that the girl was trying to extort my daughter into buying her expensive items, with threats, backstabbing my daughter, and threatening anyone who dared to play with her at lunch, so she was completely isolated at school. My daughter then cut off all contact, and she's been rebuilding her friendship circle. And all was going well until this little girl starts repeatedly demanding that my daughter give her the other half of the friendship necklace so she could give it to someone else that she liked. The fact that we were the ones that bought the necklaces to begin with was apparently a minor irrelevant detail. My 18-year-old niece and nephew are very protective of their young cousins, and they were quite upset for her. So they decided to offer her the opportunity for therapeutic destruction. Last weekend, they got out their tools and helped my daughter shatter the charm into 7 or 8 pieces with a hammer, some pliers, and they had a great time. My daughter then put the pieces of the charm in her jewelry box as a reminder of what fake friends can do to you. Anyway, apparently this girl kept demanding the necklace every single day, hassling my daughter, so my daughter hatches a plan. She gathered up all the pieces into a little tiny bag, took them to school today to empty the bag in front of the girl, and told her that she was welcome to the necklace, as long as she likes jigsaw puzzles, but she'll probably need some glue. Apparently the girl went red, and she storms off to the teacher to tattle and say that my daughter had destroyed her necklace, and that's when my daughter was sent to the office. I couldn't keep a straight face, and I burst out laughing. You could see the vein in the principal's forehead pop out as he looked at me laughing. I then pulled out my phone and showed him my purchase history to confirm that we bought the necklaces, and told him that my daughter is perfectly within her rights to destroy her own property if she so wishes. He finally dismissed us, and my daughter skips back to class laughing hysterically. My niece and nephew are quite proud, and they're planning to take my daughter out for ice cream this weekend to celebrate her standing up for herself. Guys, I love this petty revenge. Absolutely brilliant. Like, there's nothing better than the sweet, innocent revenge of destroying your own property to mess with someone else. Especially if that someone else is a toxic little brat. And if I were in OP's shoes, I'd be taking them all out for ice cream. Like, what awesome big cousins she has. As for the other girl, I hope she learns a lesson from this. I recently started to work in an office, and I'm not very happy about it as I prefer working from home. But it's only temporary, so I'm hanging in there. Also, since I'm trying to save money, I take my own lunch instead of eating at one of the many restaurants near the office. So soon after I started, I noticed that my food was going missing from the break room. After digging a bit, I discovered who the culprit was. It was one of my coworkers. Let's call him M. The guy decided that it was okay to take my lunch without asking for almost a week. Now, I had to put a stop to this, but since I had no hard evidence like a video of him eating my stuff, I decided to take justice into my own hands. You see, my coworker is a Muslim, and apparently he's very serious about it, to the point that he has to let everyone know about it at least once a day. Of course, there's nothing wrong with being serious about your religion, mind you. But when that's the only thing you talk about, you might want to diversify your interest. To me, however, he's known as the lunch looter. So here's my petty revenge. Since it's my lunch after all, and I have absolutely no dietary prohibitions, I decided to prepare myself a delicious pork sandwich. Pepperoni, ham, smoked sausage, chorizo, bacon, pork leg, you name it. And no, don't forget the extra jalapenos. Normally I don't like them, but I want this one to pack a punch. I call it the Squealing Supreme. Now surely any person who adheres to religious rules would be a fool to even go near my succulent sandwich, right? Well, it seems that my coworker is the type of person to just grab food out of the fridge without checking it first, which led to hilarious results. At some point before my lunch hour, the office was set off by bloody screams coming from the break room. When someone ran off to check, they found poor M crying about eating pork and saying that someone had put non-halal meats in the fridge. This was my cue to get HR involved. This level of drama wouldn't go unnoticed anyway, and catching M eating my sandwich was all I needed to get them on my side. Sadly, the payoff wasn't great. He was let off with a warning, and his excuse for taking my lunch is that I always brought halal food. Basically just chicken and vegetables, so that's why he took it. And it's not that he thought it was for him, he just said he targeted my stuff because I was the only one bringing clean food. The guy was still quite pissed at me, and in the last few days, he's been giving me the death glare. So the moral of the story is don't take people's food because, who knows, maybe they enjoy the food that your religion considers sinful. Guys, I am laughing my freaking ass off at this. Like the nerve of that guy to steal OP's food and then get upset at OP, like it's ridiculous. Also, I just want to say that I don't know how serious the guy actually took this religion, because there's a difference between preaching and practicing what you preach. Like, you're not allowed to complain about eating food that you're not supposed to eat, when I'm pretty sure it's also against the religion to steal from others. Like, cherry picking much? And while we're on the topic of food thieves, listen to this, guys. So this happened way back in 2013. I was living in a large space with 5 roommates. One of my roommates was known for borrowing food, including expensive stuff like meat, but never replacing it. Well, one day, I knew that his mom was coming to visit and stay for a few days, and his mom absolutely loves horses. So what I decided to do was bait this roommate with horse meat. I acquired some nice thin cuts. I then sliced some of it and salted it and left it in a Tupperware in the fridge, while I went and put the rest of the package with the horse meat store label on it in the freezer. Sure enough, in the evening, I noticed that some of the horse is gone. so I make a big deal about someone stealing some of the horse meat in front of his mom. They all laugh and go, haha, very funny, sure it's horse meat. And that's when my roommate owns up to borrowing some meat and used it to make him and mom some steak and eggs for breakfast. And he lies and says that he'll replace it. That's when I pull out the package from the freezer and prove that it was in fact horse meat, and his mom instantly burst into tears crying to her son saying, "How could you feed me horse?" He definitely stopped borrowing my meat after that. So yeah, that last sentence is something I never thought I'd say out loud in my life, guys. Also, the way OP kept saying that his roommate was borrowing his meat without ever returning it, I'm pretty sure they mean steal. The guy was stealing OP's food. And I also want to add that I do kind of feel bad for the mom, guys. Like, that poor woman was just caught in the petty revenge. On Friday night, I come home from work to find someone on our block was having a large party, and someone decided that they were entitled to park in my driveway. Keep in mind that my driveway is a single car width, lined with a retaining wall on both sides and a garage at the end. Essentially, it's impossible for a tow truck to come pull them out without property damage. Seeing this and the lack of street parking, I took this as a cue to park right behind them in my driveway. Now a few hours go by and the entitled parker is now knocking at my door, demanding I move my car so she can leave. Seeing as they were demanding, I informed them that I had been drinking and I would not move my car. The entitled parker then decides to call the police to get them to come force me move. When the police knocked on my door, I was sure to grab a beer from the fridge before I answered to talk with the officer. I had informed them that after I got home, I was unwinding and I'd been drinking and I was in no shape to drive. At this point, their hands were tied because they couldn't tow her car out, I'm in no shape to drive, and I'm legally parked in my driveway. I ended up telling the entitled parker that since it's a long weekend, I would be on a weekend-long bender and they could come move my car after I go to work on Tuesday. Guys, I will never understand people's sense of entitlement. Like, parking on other people's driveways like they own the damn place. She got exactly what she deserved. And if I were OP, I'd be a little extra petty and bust to work on Tuesday. What's one more day without her having her car, right? This happened a couple of years ago. I at the time was 28 years old and I was dating a guy named Max, 29 for 5 years. We were full on together. We lived together, shared finances, had 2 dogs, etc. My best friend Amy, 28 years old, lived 10 minutes away, so we were always with each other. We were pretty much the 3 musketeers. So one day I'm scrolling Instagram and I see my boyfriend in the background of a picture he posted to our local bars page. He was supposed to be at work, and I'd never been given a reason to not trust him, so I figured it was an older picture, as we go there a couple of times a month. But when he got home, he was wearing the same blue button-up and jeans. I had a horrible feeling in my stomach, but I didn't say anything. That night, I went through his phone, and yeah, I know, but I don't care. We've always shared passwords, and I've never had an issue of using or checking each other's phones. When I checked his messages, I saw a chain with someone named Jack. We don't know a Jack, so I read through them and my heart just breaks. I've known my best friend since we were in diapers and I know how she texts. I then checked the number just to be sure, and yep, they were talking behind my back. Now, they weren't just talking though. There were pictures and mentions of them talking about certain nights together. I spent the night crying and sending myself all the screenshots and everything I could find. By morning, I realized that I can't just confront them, I need to prepare. So I set out to put money aside. I tell Max that the fridge is broken, so I'm using some of the savings to fix it, and that we need a plumber for this or a handyman for that. Of course, it was all lies, but I needed a reason to pull money out of the account that we both had access to. It took me 2 months, but I was able to pull out enough to put a deposit down and pay a couple of months in advance on a new apartment I found that was closer to work and pet friendly. In the meantime, I messed with their heads. I would mention things that would cause drama, like telling Max that Amy talked about a cute guy from work, or telling Amy that Max had mentioned marriage and kids with me. The day before I was leaving, I set my plan into motion. I knew where my best friend went for lunch most days of the week, so I watched and waited. When she arrived, I went in and pretended that I didn't want to throttle her for breaking my trust and my heart. We sat down and chatted, and I slyly mentioned sex with Matt. In their messages, she told him that she didn't want him to touch me anymore. Apparently, she'd become quite possessive of my boyfriend. I made comments saying how sore I was because we did it rough. How he was so good at doing things. You name it, I mentioned it. And her face got redder and redder, and I could tell that she was livid. It was amazing to watch. I'd seen her react that way before, but I never realized why. Later that day, I go home and once again pretend that everything is normal. but I sit down on the couch with Max and snuggle up to him while he watches TV. About 20 minutes later, I ask him how his day was, blah blah blah. Then I bring up that I ran into Amy at lunch and I said you'll never guess who she was with. I then told him how Amy was with Dave, a real-life coworker that's hung out with us multiple times, and how it's so cute that they're finally dating now. Now, when I say he froze, I don't even think he breathed. He sort of muttered, I didn't know she was seeing someone. I then tell him about how I caught them kissing, and after Dave left to go back to work, Amy told me about their amazing sex life. I've never seen him look so dejected before. That night, I asked that we do a phone-free night, which we'd often do so that we could be in our own bubble. I could tell that he was a little hesitant, but he turned his phone off and we put it in the basket that we use for it. We watched a movie and cuddled on the couch, and he stayed as stiff as a board for the majority of it, before falling asleep. Once he was out, I grabbed his work phone and sent out a contactless wide email about how I may be in a bad mood for the next couple of weeks because my mistress gave me the clap, and then I changed the passcode on it and turned it off. I knew that he wouldn't turn it on until he got to his work site that was 40 minutes away. As soon as he was out the door, I immediately packed all my bags, all the important papers, and the dogs, and I left. I also unscrewed most light bulbs, took the batteries out of the remote, took the router power cable so he wouldn't have Wi-Fi, and cranked the AC up to 80 degrees. When I got to my new place, I sent Amy a text asking how my downstairs tastes, and then I blocked them both. I then posted screenshots to my Facebook and let everybody know what horrible people they were. Yeah, all I can say is OP went freaking scorched earth on those two. And OP does come back with a part 2 that says, so the next day, his mom called me to talk things over with me. She's an amazing woman who raised him on her own while creating a very profitable company. He was initially set to get the company when she passes away, but she changed her will so that he only gets the minimum dollar amount, and her brother will get the company. I know I hurt him in a way that I couldn't imagine because Max always talked about running the company and taking it over for her to make her proud. I just know he cried when she told him that. My ex-neighbor Martha, who's in her 70s, is an absolute drama starter. If there's drama to be had, she will find it or create it. I told her I was moving out and why about a week before I left, so she would keep me in the loop in the aftermath. So Amy moved in shortly after I left, and through the thin walls of the duplex, Martha heard everything unfold. Apparently they fought constantly because they couldn't trust each other. Go figure. Amy was always yelling about him being gone too long and how he must have been with me, and how she wanted all new furniture because she couldn't sit somewhere where we hadn't been intimate. She's also a mess, like an actual mess. She doesn't know how to clean, throw out trash, do laundry, or cook. Max has always been and will always be a neat freak, so it's not gonna work out. Like, there's no way they're gonna be able to live together full time without wanting to strangle each other. And Mrs. Martha, the crap disturber that she is, bless her cheetah print soul, loved to let Amy know that Max's beautiful sister was coming over a lot now that OP was gone. Of course, Max doesn't have a sister, and she's lying, but boy did it cause an all-out screaming match between them. Amy's angry that he would cheat on her, he's angry the house looks like a garbage pit, and said that she was the biggest mistake he ever made, and even said he wanted me back. That hits her pretty hard, apparently, so she starts throwing stuff at him, and he calls the cops on her. Mrs. Martha then comes out to be nosy, to see what's going on. She gives a statement about what she hears, and as they're putting Amy in the back of the squad car, she yells out to Amy to not worry because she's sure Max's sister will come over to help clean the house when she's gone. Hearing that, Amy freaks the heck out and she starts trying to run at Max, and then she's tased and then put into the back of the squad car. Amy got released a couple of days later after making bail, and only went back to the duplex a couple of times, both with police escorts, so we think that Max took out an order of protection against her. Max has made multiple Facebook profiles to message me and apologize, but I blocked them all immediately. He's also called my work as well, but thankfully I work remotely, and I'd already told my supervisors to not give out any information regarding me or my contact details. I'm not sure what happened with his work emails, though I'm assuming he had a lot of explaining to do to his bosses, coworkers, and their business connections. When I think about how he had to have those conversations over and over again, it really makes me smile. Amy's apparently moved to a new state, and she doesn't talk with anyone in our friend group, probably because they all came down on her pretty hard. To think about what she did still breaks my heart. We've been friends all my life. When my parents died, she was my rock. She made me see past my grief and my depression, and made me want to live again. When I was reading their messages, I could see the evolution of the conversations and the happiness they shared, doing things behind my back. The night I was reading them, my ribs burned and my stomach was queasy, but I had to think logically versus emotionally. I didn't truly break down until I got to my new apartment though. I just sat on the floor of my new kitchen and cried for what felt like hours. It took me a couple of weeks, but I slowly started to unpack and find a new rhythm in my new life. This was 4 years ago, so I've moved on in life, but it's definitely left some scars. I started therapy 6 months after I moved out, and that's helped a lot, but I still haven't been able to put myself in a trusting relationship. I've yet to have another long-term partner, as it just gives me too much anxiety and trust issues. Well, that was a roller coaster, guys. I don't see how that relationship was gonna work. OP did what she wanted to do, planted the seeds of doubt in their minds, so it was only time before they sprouted and destroyed them both. And hats off to Mrs. Martha, she was the crap-disturbing catalyst that really pushed this relationship over the edge. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /PettyRevenge. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today. If you did, hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you're not subscribed. And if you guys happen to miss the last episode on the channel, I'll link it right here. A super entitled Karen encourages her kid to attack OP in public because he's special. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.